As long as the NHL roster freeze is not in effect, we are in danger by making these videos at this time. Because, I'll admit, I'm recording this video on the night of Wednesday, December 17th, trying to recover emotionally from my terrible fantasy hockey decisions, to bring you guys a commentary on one LA Kings center, Phillip Danault, as well as the newest and latest on what the LA Kings have to offer. Because earlier yesterday, we saw ourselves, the LA Kings, lose a pretty tight game 3-2 to the Florida Panthers. And quite noteworthy in this contest is the fact that one Phillip Danault was not present in the lineup. In fact, he hasn't played for the LA Kings since the 10th. He's been out for over a week with what the Kings are calling the flu. And we can go out there and take a look at what Zach Dooley had to say. This was all before the game went down. Byfield back in tonight, missed Monday's game with the flu. No Phil Danault for the third straight game. You had Aaron replying, is Phil refusing to play? Or is he sick? I think he has the trade flu, Jody goes out there and says. But with this entire refusing to play thing all of a sudden being brought up into the spotlight, one may wonder what is going on with this dude. Well, have no fear. Because in this video, we're going over the trade update, the trade situation. I said it's dangerous for us to make this video because if the guy actually does end up getting traded in between the time I speak into this microphone and the time this video gets uploaded on YouTube, then I'll look like the ultimate fool. But nevertheless, we still have some updates to dive into here, especially based off of what some of the insiders are saying. Let's start out with what Pierre LeBrun said on Melnick in the afternoon yesterday. Phillip Danault has not asked for a trade, but it doesn't change the fact that the LA Kings are taking calls on him. I think it makes sense if he ends up moving, so we'll see where that goes. Now, Pierre LeBrun was not the first NHL insider to stir up the Phillip Danault trade conversation pot. I'd say the first one to really push it out there was Frank Saravalli, and then you had Marco D'Amico, who also spoke about this 2 days ago. This is his tweet from earlier in the week. Sources indicate that Phil Danault has asked for a trade in LA. His camp hopes the deal gets done sooner than later prior to the NHL trade freeze. The Kings are willing to wait it out, and they're looking for a player-for-player trade. Montreal, New Jersey, and Carolina are some of the teams to have kicked tires there. Now, the reason I started out with the Pierre LeBrun tweet saying that Danault has not asked for a trade before going over to the D'Amico tweet that says that he has is because I think Phillip Danault's agent, Alan Walsh, actually went out there and disputed this thing, and he was like, hey, why are you making these statements without contacting the agent first? Yeah, so Alan Walsh, of course, very bold personality on social media, went out there and immediately shot down any inclination of a Phil Danault trade. But D'Amico's scoop still does have some interesting info here. Montreal, New Jersey, Carolina kicking tires on one of the better defensively minded centers in the National Hockey League. We also had some other comments. This is what Keith Freeze went out there and said. Big shout out over to Keith. He used to do stuff with Scouching back in the day, and I was very much into the content they used to make. He's an LA fan, and he went out there and tweeted this. If the rumors are true, 1, Phillip Danault apparently wants out. 2, Montreal is interested. And number 3, Kenny Holland apparently wants a 1-for-1 deal. Kirby Dach would look interesting in black and gray. He also had this tweet, which dives into some of the extra Phillip Danault conversation. The Bannerman pod went out there and said 2 days ago, if and when Danault gets moved, it'll become painfully obvious that both he and Gavrikov will have left LA for similar reasons. Not to mention other players showing no interest in coming here in the first place. All these guys are friends. They all talk. The entire NHL knows what it's like to play for Hiller and the Kings by now. Danault is a character guy, He wouldn't want out for petty reasons. Could be for another reason, though, a random LA fan says. Danault left Montreal because he didn't want to be a defense-only center. He was promised offensive opportunities and important power play time, but now the dude that promised that in Blake and the guy who fulfills that in T-Mac aren't here anymore. Well, you would actually need to score a goal and be put in more offensive situations. He's been playing on the power play despite having 10 power play goals for his entire career. I think they've been more than fair with him on that point. And then there's a discussion on how Todd played Power Play 1 and Power Play 2 evenly with several forwards, over having 2 minutes time on ice per game. Hiller instead over-relies on Power Play 1, that's why Danault may be upset. He's not going to say, "Trade me ASAP, I'm not happy to be here anymore." He also had this hardcore Dowdy going out there and saying this, that in a guest spaces appearance today with Rise from the Ashes, I predicted that Danault will return to Montreal in exchange for Jake Evans. The Habs are stacked at sea, with Kapanen, Beck, Hage, Papanikis, Koivu, Mooney, Davidson, while LA is depleted. So, cue the Phillip Danault trade to Montreal rumors, speculations, and hypothetical trade packages. Could we see something of a Kirby Dach? Could we see something of a Jake Evans going over to the LA Kings for a guy like Phillip Danault? A player who, unfortunately, left Montreal because he wanted to produce more points. As we had said, the guy had been fairly productive in his time with the Canadiens. 53 points in 81 games is nothing to scoff at, but his true value came with his defensive and penalty kill work. It's why, in the most important time of his NHL career, the Stanley Cup Playoffs wherein he went to the finals, he only had 4 points in 22 games, but was still heralded as one of the most important Canadiens on the team. His first season in LA saw him put up 51 points. The next season saw him put up a career high in points. This is a guy who had been producing quite well with the LA Kings, but this season he's only got 5 points in 30 games. The guy isn't scoring points, and the guy is playing in a system that doesn't really give him that power play flexibility. So you could wonder if there is any semblance of truth to the idea that he does want out. At the very least, you can say, the LA Kings could be shopping this guy because either he has expressed disinterest in being in this position, or if the Kings just need a better center up front. This idea that he's already missing out on time because he's maybe just refusing to play and not just out with the flu is quite funny, but I did want to include it in this video just to cover our bases and see where LA Kings fans are pointing their fingers at. But if it is Montreal, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How would you feel about a Dach or an Evans swap for Danault? Obviously, if you're Kent Hughes, this sort of a trade doesn't fit the timeline of what the Montreal Canadiens are building towards. Phillip Danault is 32 years old. Dach and Evans are significantly younger. So if there was some sort of a move to be made like this, considering the reported interest that both parties have in trading this guy and trading for this guy, I do question how Canadiens fans would react to that. Could we see an Evans or Dach swap for Danault? LA getting a nice younger center in return? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.